Hello, you mockmates. Ralphie here in the Whisky Bothy. It's the main online Whisky Bothy, but you will find that if you visit Scotland, there are quite a lot of Whisky Bothies, and they tend to be dotted around the landscape. And if you want to know more about them, because you can stay at them for free, they're very basic shelter accommodation out in the wilderness, up in the butts and bens and glens and roaming gloamings of Scotland. And they're basically a hut, stone, usually made of stone, sometimes of wood, with a roof, with a door, and with windows that are intact to keep the wind out and the elements. And that's about it. No electricity, no running water. There'll be a stream nearby and probably a wee source of firewood, so long as you're not too greedy. You can light a fire of biofuel, as we like to call it, in the grate to keep you warm in the winter months, which is usually a good time to be hill walking in Scotland because it's a lot quieter. But you make sure you're properly prepared and equipped for the wintry conditions, and you've checked the weather forecast. Very, very important. So you stay at these places and you have candlelight and you don't have any mobile phone signal, and it's just heaven. It's heavenly because it's so basic and minimalist, and it's a Zen experience. So long as if you've got any other company there, and it's probably going to be strangers, fingers crossed that they're civilised people and worthy of an intelligent conversation over a bottle of whiskey, which you have carried with you all the way, but you don't have to carry the water, because you'll find that in the local stream, cascading down the hills through the melting snow. And there you have it. Doesn't that sound lovely? I tell you what, this sounds lovely. This is a bottle of rum. Yeah. It's been bottled by Thompson Brothers. Now, let me tell you about Thompson Brothers. Two young guys who started their own little distillery, and to progress their business, they became independent bottlers because they have the calibre of contacts that are required to get access to good commercial casks. This they have done very successfully, and because they have read the future of whisky, they have understood fairly early on that you don't overpresent your product and overprice it. So in fact, they have gathered, without any marketing budget whatsoever, a very solid reputation of presenting some seriously interesting whiskies into the Scotch whisky world at some seriously affordable prices. And that's the way you do it. Well done them. It has really concluded in 2024 with the fact that they came from absolutely nowhere to win the category Best Independent Bottler of Scotch whisky. And well earned and well deserved too. Bear in mind, they're a small company, a small business. They have no marketing. There's nothing fancy, no frills, nothing like that. And that's exactly what you and I are looking for at this moment in time. You will not find their whiskies discounted and going on sale on Amazon, because it doesn't need to happen. The pricing is right to start with. And importantly, these two young lads have got damn good palates. They have gone through a considerable amount of varied whisky experiences over the years. They know what they're looking at, they know what they're dealing with, and they know what they're doing. And the consequence is that they're bottling stuff like this. This is the sort of stuff that interests me big time. The reason I'm reviewing a rum from them rather than a whisky is because more and more independent bottlers who are primarily and basically bread and butter business is Scotch whisky, but they're diversifying. They're providing alternatives for us for a very simple reason. They know we're looking for them. They know that we have developed our whisky palates over several years, and we're still developing, but every now and again we need a change. We just need a change. It's like watching the same style of movie all the time on Netflix. You know, you just want a different theme, a different plot, a different style of movie. You just want an alternative. And this is a very good example of what's called the malternative. So you've got a whiskey bottler bottling rum, and there is, I'll go over in my extras, 1,062 extras. I had a bit more detail as to what's becoming available through the independent bottlers and why. In the meantime, let's give you a bit more information about this. This first came to my attention from my online Patreon subscribers. Now, these are pretty well-informed guys. They very nominal subscription to my Patreon channel. We have a good old Discord going, literally in the Discord channel, where people are swapping bottles they've bought and how they rate them and how they've enjoyed them. And because of the speed of communication, any good value, good bottlings of whiskey, rum, whatever, that appear in the market are very, very quickly identified and sell. Because the conversation is rapid. This is marketing reaching its pinnacle, actually, because there is no official marketing. It's by the online community, experienced whiskey drinkers being light on their feet and quick to make decisions in identifying what's the really good stuff and separating it from the rest of the options, which may be overpriced or even worse, providing disappointment because of intermittent bottling quality or simply excessive chill filtration and dumbing down to try and suit the palates and appeal to the palates of passive whiskey drinkers and other people who are not actually interested in the whiskey but are habitual buyers occasionally. They're not going to be interested in this. This is speciality stuff. 10-year-old Dominican rum from, there's about 15 distilleries in Dominica. Some of them quite large, like Brugal, for example, or Barcelo. And there's another distillery I wrote down which seems to be getting a bit of prominence in Dominica, and that's Macarix. There we go. AFD, it's another one. They don't know which distillery this came from, and that's not unusual. What they do know is that it spent most of its life in an ex-Madeira cask. And you know, and I know, we both know, we all know, that you can't go wrong with a Madeira cask. So long as it's a fresh, intact Madeira cask, you always get good results, whether it be whiskey, rum, or anything. That is the nature of Madeira. That's what finally clinched me to get it. There's information in the back of the label. There is no box. There's no container. There's no wee cardboard folder. You don't need it. Because see, if you've got these cardboard boxes and containers and you happen to leave your whiskey in the sunlight on a window, right, and you think it's okay, it won't be affected because the sun's not hitting it directly. Big mistake. What's happening is the sun is actually heating the container, the box, or the tin that your whiskey's stored in, elevating the temperature and actually starting to drive off some of the vaporization through the seal. So you got to watch. You really want whiskey where you can actually see it, see the neck fill, and when it's stuck in a container and you've paid for that container and then you've paid tax on that container, it's not really serving any purpose other than waiting for you to squash it with your big feet and put it in the bin or burn it, because that's how we go about recycling. You don't store your spaghetti in a whiskey box because it's not airtight. Not even the tins are properly airtight. So we don't waste our time. Cheers. It says in the back of the label, I'll read it out to you. And by the way, there's a barcode as well. I'll bring it right forward so you can get a photo of the barcode. I know it's in focus. With maturation, bottling, dilution and filtration done in-house, the team can focus on each release individually, and both those distilled at Dornoch Distillery and the independent bottlings, steampunk or steamed up, that's better. ensuring that they retain as much of the spirit's unique character as possible, bottled with natural colour and without chill filtration. Magic words. We need to hear this. Natural colour, non-chill filtered. And when they're saying it's not been chill filtered, it means they've barrier filtered it. They haven't just put it through the chill filtration machine with the chill switched off, like some of the bigger companies appear to be doing, in my opinion, which is naughty and cheeky, disingenuous and a little bit fake. And I'm not pleased about it. I find that quite condescending. Here, I think we're seeing some far greater transparency and far more connectability between those who are actually producing and taking responsibility for delivering this cask to the open market and us who are buying it, who we may not be super experienced with rum, we may not be rum experts, but I tell you what, we know what quality is. That's what really matters, mob mates. Because we identify quality in whisky, and it translates into any category, any currency, any location around the world. Good made stuff is good made stuff, whatever the circumstance. And this is very well made stuff. Nose. It's like super soaked English breakfast tea in a molasses spirit that's got some plums macerated in it that aren't too fruity. It's got that little kind of slight, almost maraschino black cherries. Not red maraschino, black maraschino cherries. It is utterly, totally distinctively rum. You cannot mistake it for anything else. It's got that big molasses note. Now, we don't know which distillery this is, so we can't do too much forensics, but what we do know is that the majority of rums tend to be a infinitesimally complex blend of pot still and column still, of molasses rum, of agricole rum, and anything in between. Any permutation. You will find that many rum distilleries will produce a big, heavy, meaty molasses rum, but because it's too heavy for the market, they'll blend it down with some lighter spirit, and usually some younger spirit. It's got a bit more grassiness and a little bit more freshness to it to take on the enormous weight of these fat old pot stills that are producing this big beefy molasses. Honestly, it looks like treacle soup when you see molasses when it's fermenting. It actually looks like a mud pit. It does. Anyway, moving on. Thoroughly enjoying this, by the way. 10 years old, distilled in 2013, bottled in 2023, bottled at 54.8%, and one of 412 bottles. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, folks, but this is probably sold out everywhere because of the quality. And the price was coming out at about £55 a bottle. That is a good price. That's a good price. So it took a while for people to latch on to it because it's rum and not whiskey. And it's primarily the market that it's being released in is a whiskey drinking market. But as soon as some of the rumsters, who are a great bunch of guys, by the way, and you kind of started communicating with the whiskey guys, because there is this communication going on, it was quickly identified after a slow burning start, and it's just probably just a bit disappeared. You might find a bottle at auction, but I'm reviewing this as a rum because I'm primarily reviewing Thompson Brothers as bottlers of genuinely exciting spirits. And this is where we are in 2025, at the beginning of 2025. Some of the whiskey brands are just looking tired at the moment. I don't know if you're aware, but I mean, the power of the internet is phenomenal. And a British supermarket promoted 10-year-old Lefroy as a bog-off. Now, if you're British, you know what a bog-off is. But if you're not, let me explain. Bog-off means buy one, get one free. So we had a supermarket in Britain, a prominent supermarket, selling a bottle of Laphroaig 10-year-old with a free one to go with it for £41. So a bottle of 10-year-old Laphroaig selling £20.50. Now, I don't know who signed off on that. I suspect that was the supermarket did that, because they've been left with a warehouse full of unsold single malt whisky. Because the passive consumer doesn't like Laphroaig because they don't have a palate for it. It's confusing to them because they don't understand whisky. And while Laphroaig are not focusing more on delivering authentic, natural, this style of bottling, it just beggars belief. It's almost as if they're blinded by the headlights of an oncoming train. And if someone in marketing, for what's essentially a luxury product, has signed off and given permission for a supermarket to give a bottle away free with every bottle sold, that's crazy, crazy stuff. I mean, that's throwing the towel in. And if you want to undermine and destroy your reputation, I can't think of a faster way to do it. This is why the OSWAs are important. You'll find a link down below. We're focusing on quality here. It's okay to buy a bad bottle of whisky now and again. You'll find them in the supermarket. There's plenty on the shelf because they're not selling. And maybe a few will sell for the burn supper or for a Scottishy time of year, but not as much as used to. Why? Because see, the older generation that used to drink whisky, they've passed away because of pandemic lockdown. All the operations that cancelled and all the rest of it. I mean, that's the tragedy of the situation. This is what's really affecting and explaining the landscape we're in now, here in 2025. Let's get focused back in this. Big, weighty, beefy rum. Very articulate. Super long on the arrival. Starts sweet. Seems like it's going to get sweeter. Then it turns sour. So sweet and sour. Super sweet and sour. Then it almost becomes minty and phenolic. Not whiskey phenols, wood phenols. The tannins from that Madeira cask really start kicking in, sparkling up the development, which maintains its theme of being molasses, but rounded, very well developed, rich, almost liqueur molasses rum. It's big. It's enormous. It's fabulous. It's very, very good. I'm going to add a drop of water to this. You need to give this time, you need to give this water to find out what's really going on in this. It appears to be, from the information, that this rum spent its entire life in this Madeira cask. If it didn't, and by the way, not a lot of Madeira casks find their way to the Caribbean. They're now kept in Madeira. But it's possible that someone in the Caribbean bought a full barrel of Madeira, had it shipped over, and then sold the empty cask on to a local distillery, or cut a deal with the distillery to swap it for rum, because it's a Caribbean thing to do. And then it was put, or either that or the empty barrel was sitting in London docks, which is where most liquor comes into Britain, through the London docks these days. And it came in ex-bourbon casks, and a couple of casks were seen to be a little bit beat up from the journey, so they just put them into this fresh, because that is a fresh Madeira cask. And the rest is history. It's been sitting there 10 years. It tastes much older in terms of quality and maturation, but this is down to the calibre of the cask. You cannot go wrong with a Madeira cask. This is why the new Madeira rum industry is so exciting. We're not seeing even a hint of it yet, but it will be there, and it will be very, very good when it arrives. Mark my words. I've added 5 mils of water. The viscosity in that is just phenomenal. It's a really good sign of just how fresh and rich the cask is, and how fresh the spirit is, how weighty the spirit is. But we already know that from the palate. Nose, absolutely quintessentially rum. You'd almost think it was a Cuban rum, a Cuban molasses rum, or a really old Jamaican rum with the restrained esters. Personally, I think it's Brugal, to be honest. It's got that kind of slight coffee note, that coffee mocha, that side of Kahlua, the Kahlua liqueur. I once bought a bottle of old Mexican rum, and I couldn't understand. There was a note about it I just couldn't fathom. And eventually I'm sitting, aha, they've added Kahlua to the rum to beef it up a bit. I guarantee it. The water lets the citrus notes from the rum exert themselves more. There's more Muscovado now, so we're away from the heavy molasses sort of treacle spectrum. We're moving somewhere towards a little bit more Demerara. We're getting to a little bit more aromatic condensed sugars. And the mintiness, a slight gingeriness, the plum note is absolutely, it's developing. When you leave it in the glass, the plum note comes forward a little bit, but it's very much a kind of dried plum rather than a plum brandy. So it's, well, basically prune-like, prune complex. Sometimes there's a flavour hidden in plain sight and you just don't spot it because it's so glaringly obvious. And here it's vanilla. There's a real rich, almost resinous vanilla note that carries throughout this. The length and the arrival is super, super long. The finish is super, super long. It is super, super wonderful. I'm not going to hang around any longer. Malt mates, I'm going to deliver a mark on this. This is a joy. An absolute joy. I'm giving this... No, I'm not. I'm going to give it a better mark. $85 out of 100. That's a rum mark. And by the way, just for the record, that's a good rum mark. An exceptional rum would be 88, possibly 89. For the integrity, the delivery of full force flavour. This is splendid stuff. So thanks to my pals for recommending it to me. This is the benefit when you have a sort of closed group of enthusiasts that anyone can join. You have this very speedy transfer of information. You know you've got a window of opportunity, particularly in Britain, of about 2 to 3 weeks. 3 weeks if you're lucky. You've definitely got 3 weeks now in 2025 because sales of spirits are slowing down. They're slowing down globally. But if you make a quick decision in this and trust the advice you're given and trust your instincts, you very soon find that you're able to locate and source and enjoy little small quantity packages of spirits, usually whiskey, but not always. You've got your alternatives. And they basically, they come and they go amongst the independent bottlers. And this is the strength of the independent bottlers. They're bottling small volumes. They're opportunists. They check what's in the warehouse. These odd casks, these eccentric casks that official bottlers would never be interested in. And they bottle them, they present them naturally because they know that's what their customers are going to appreciate. We appreciate the price that we're paying to get this experience. This is where the real exciting value is. And if you've missed out on this, don't worry, because there'll be something else along shortly. All you have to do is just have your own little forensic network so you can do your Sherlock Holmes and say, right, what's the knowledge at the moment? What's out there that superficially I would overlook, and certainly I've overlooked in the past, which is genuinely exciting and probably a flavour I've never encountered before. And I'm thoroughly going to enjoy it. And when the bottle's finished, I may never encounter it again. But never mind, there'll be something else. It's interesting times, malt mates. I'm done here with this review. My next review will be 1062 Extras, in which I'll be talking about the increasing availability of non-Scotch whisky from Scotch whisky independent bottlers. And I'm going to tell you why it's so exciting. See you there.